Hello, everybody. I am Mrs. Woodland, and I just wanted to welcome you to DES113. This is our typography class in an online format. And so I wanted to welcome everyone. Here we are, Mod 9, 2018, and we are about to jump into our first week's live session. And I just wanted to let you guys know this is kind of like a little introduction to myself, and I'll explain more about me, but just to keep you engaged, I thought this would be a fun game. Let's play I Spy, and tell me if you spy anything out of place in the background and try to guess what it is. Special points go to that person who can guess. Anyways, I'll go ahead and close out this video to keep the distraction stopped and close out. But in case you were wondering, that was a trampoline in the background. Yes, it was, as well as an exercise bike. So I think I've got my bases pretty well covered. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into my slides, and we'll do a brief introduction here just so that we can get to know one another. So if you would like to participate, go ahead and put in the chat box a little bit about yourself. There's also a section on the course homepage of where you can introduce yourself to the class and to me, and where we can get to know one another. But my name is Mrs. Woodland. I'm originally from Texas, and now I live in California. So I am living the life on the West Coast, Upper West, and I have been a graphic designer for about 15 years now. Can you believe that? Time flies. And an instructor for a total of 8 years. So I just absolutely love graphic design. I enjoy it. I'm kind of weird because it's kind of a hobby to me. So this isn't work for me. This is fun for me. And this is how I like to spend my evenings, talking about graphic design and getting to delve into it a little bit. So let's talk about the best ways to get a hold of me. Things come up, and sometimes unexpected things happen. So if you need to get a hold of me for any reason, please reach out via this email address right here. It's also on the course syllabus. All my contact information is. Or you can message me through Canvas, but probably the best way to get a hold of me is through email. My phone number is here. Please use it, don't abuse it. Be aware that I am on the Pacific time zone. So if you are just be aware, I've had students call and text at 3 in the morning before, and so unfortunately I will not be answering my phone at that hour, but I am available during 1 to 2 p.m. office hours, or generally 1 to 2 p.m. Daily, and that's Mountain Standard Time, so that you guys can reach out to me and I can answer emails and get back to you as quickly as possible. So I just want to be able to practice good communication skills right off the bat and just say, let me know if there's anything I can do to make this shared learning experience a better experience for you. Or if you require anything or need anything, I want to be able to help you in the best way possible, because we want to make sure this learning experience is positive for all of us, and we all learn differently. So I want to make sure that there's nothing I'm overlooking, so please feel free to reach out. Or if you just want to say hi, I would love to just meet you virtually. And coming to the lectures are always a great way to come and introduce yourself and get to know one another and your classmates. Let's go over my policies a little bit. We've got a little bit of housekeeping to go over before we jump right into the lecture, but I will put this out there. I am going to go over the assignment and the assessment one in great detail. So there are no questions and there's no confusion, and this is a great opportunity to also ask questions. I've had a lot of good questions come through email lately about what to expect, or can I do this? And so we'll go over the cans and the can'ts and the do's and the don'ts later, but I want to just let this be kind of a way that I structure my courses, that you will always get demos on how to do the assignments in every live lecture. And because we only have one, I will try my best to fit both of them in for the week. So both assignments will get demoed in class. All right, so let's show some effort and dedication and communicate. My policy is very simple. It goes with college policy. No discussions are accepted late. That is a way that I keep attendance in class. So if you are current or you attended that week and participated in the discussion, you get attendance points. If you were not and did not participate in the discussion, there are no attendance points given. And then unfortunately, you cannot go make posts past the deadline because that discussion is now closed. So please don't try to scramble doing late submissions for discussions. They will not be and cannot be accepted, unfortunately. And these are not my policies. These are the school's policies. So it's the same in all of your courses. But the good news is if you have trouble getting in any work or any work that is late is accepted up to 1 week past the due date. So you have 1 extra week to get your work in. I've had some students email me saying, oh, Mrs. Woodland, something came up and I just don't think I'm going to get my assignments in. And what I say is no problem. Don't worry. That's why this late work policy is in place, because this will allow you to have more time. And students really appreciate that because it's only a 20% drop from your grade on the assignment. And so a lot of students really like this. It gives them an extra week to get work turned in, and it's only a minimal amount of points taken off for the late fee. But anything is better than a 0, right? So that is the late work policy. Past 1 week, it is no longer accepted, and the assignment is closed for good. So come finals, I know I have some procrastinators that usually try to turn in 4 weeks worth of work on the 4th week, and it just does not work like that, unfortunately. So please stay as current as possible. If you know you're going to miss an assignment, please reach out to me so we can be in communication and find something that works for you. Partial late work is better than no late work, so please don't assume that just because you missed it, you're not going to turn it in. A lot of students pass this class with flying colors, even though their work may have been late. So please don't give up. Reworking assignments. I allow 1 resubmission per assignment. And there's a lot of reasons why, but one, I just think it's a great way to learn. I mean, whoever gets anything perfect on the first try anyways? I mean, I know I don't. And I learned the best when I was in graphic design school, just getting feedback and making those changes, learning how to make my assignments look better and feel better and communicate better. So I absolutely wholeheartedly support resubmissions and reworking assignments throughout the mod. Granted, you'll only get a one-time resubmission, so read the feedback carefully and make sure you can get all those points that are allotted to you. But this also helps your software skills. It helps you practice getting in and out of the software, in and out of your assignment specifically. It also helps your design skills because you're able to take my creative criticism, my feedback, if you will, and it helps you apply it to your design to make it more of a portfolio-worthy design. The whole goal here in this class is to not only teach you graphic design skills, but to also teach you how to fine-tune them. I'm not teaching you just how to use the software. I'm teaching you how to make your designs portfolio worthy. So when you graduate, you can go to any employer and say, this is my portfolio and this is the amazing work I've done. And I worked hard on it. And I want your design skills to reflect that hard work that you're putting in. Okay, another bonus is it helps your grade. Resubmitting definitely gives you more points. Not all full points are given. Sometimes, in some cases, yes, if you do all of the feedback, but you get more points back. And that's just a great booster, you guys. So let's take advantage of that if you can. And it also helps you prepare for employment. One could take a guess why it helps you prepare for employment. Anybody? For me, it gets me used to taking feedback and making changes, improving oneself. We are never, and none of us are perfect, so when we get that feedback, it gets us used to it, but it also helps us make those changes. But in the real world, if you guys, first of all, I just want to get a show of hands, just kind of smiley face or put in the chat box, how many of you are taking graphic design to pursue as a career? Is this just a hobby, or are you going to be pursuing this as a career in the industry? And what do you want to do with it? Are you going into video game programming, software development, website building? Are you going to try to do print, graphic design? What are you hoping to accomplish? I'll give you a moment to post. And those of you who are watching at home, I want you to be thinking about this as well. Okay, so I'm kind of getting a mix. Some are in this for graphic design, others are pursuing this for a hobby, others want to take it a different way, a different avenue, and that's great. All of this is great. And no matter what industry you're going into, it is absolutely crucial to be able to take constructive feedback and be able to apply it to improve oneself or one's work or one's designs, whether it's graphic design or photography or a cooking class or video game programming. What you want to do is be able to take feedback and from consumers or clients especially, and be able to turn that into fine-tuning and honing in on your final draft. And you want to be able to make those clients and those customers happy. And the only way to do that is to practice resubmitting and reworking your work. So this is a long-winded explanation of why it's so important, but it's why I support it. So please expect that. All right, let's talk about our classroom, some resources. Some of you may be new to this format, some of you may be veterans, but let's take a tour. Live sessions and recordings. So I'm going to step you through our course media in just a minute. I'll kind of get my website up here. And we'll step into where you can go to find the live lectures, where you can, or the lecture recordings, I should say, where to find the live lectures, announcements. We'll go into the syllabus. And I'd like to say, I apologize for my raspy voice. I've had a cold for the last few days, and then I was assigned to teach, and my voice is barely just coming back. So I promise by next week you won't have to hear me talk like a horse. So bear with me, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and step us through and take a little virtual tour around our classroom. We'll go to our class. All right, so if you'll notice here on the course homepage, going to live sessions, by clicking this button here, this will take you to the live sessions. It will also show you where live sessions are posted, and that time does need to be updated, but there'll be a link here that you can click on, and all the recorded sessions will be included. All right, and then we'll go to home here. And then the week discussions and the assignments are all underneath here, these tabs. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And I wanted to also talk a little bit about the discussion. How many of you had a chance to look at the discussion already? Have any of you been able to look at it? Some of you? Okay, so also something to be looking out for is that you'll need to look in your inbox. There's an email with a link to the live lecture, and so we're going to be going over that. We're also going to be talking a little bit about where to find how I'll be communicating with you. So I won't be sending out a ton of emails. What I will be doing, though, is going through I'll be kind of sending out announcements. And also, I wanted to invite you guys to check the announcements daily. That's how I'm going to be communicating with you guys. I'm sorry, I had a few students kind of chime in just asking where to find the live session link. So for having trouble with that, I do apologize. I'll try to go post that under the class. That should have already been there, but we will we'll get that fixed. So if you did miss any of the class, just remember you can always go back to the live session recording, and we will go from there. Okay, so how many of you have looked ahead to see what we're doing for the assignment? Because I had a few students email me already, so I know some of you are already looking. Okay, so I see some have not. All right, we've got some people joining us now, so we'll kind of just wait. We're having some issues. Hey, thanks for coming today. And I hear, I'm gonna go ahead and mute this. Hey Josh, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming. So apparently there's a little mix up with the link, so I want to make sure that everyone's getting the link tonight. That's why I sent out an email. So if anybody is comes in late, don't worry about that. We'll just catch the recording. We haven't gone over anything too terribly important. Yeah, so I know, it's great. Okay, so what time zone are you in? Okay, Eastern. So if you're on the East Coast, so it'll get over a little late over there. But thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I know the East Coasters don't like me too much. I'm on the other side of the coast, so it's kind of hard with the time zones. But again, if you ever have to leave due to timing and scheduling, that is just fine. Please know you can just catch the recording or email me any questions as we begin. All right, so we're just taking a little tour of the class, and I just wanted to show you guys there are the lecture days and times. These have been updated, and there's also a link here. For some reason it didn't save, so I do apologize for that. Announcements, this is where we're going to be communicating, or where rather I'll be communicating with you. If anything of note comes up, this is where it's going to be posted. So for instance, the recording, where do you find the recording of tonight's lecture? It will be right under here, under the announcements tab. Also, to catch the lecture, you can click on the live sessions tab here, right there, as you can see, and that will take you to the class. There'll be a link there to click on. Assignments and assessments under each week will be listed, so make sure that you check that, and also make sure that you participate in our discussion. So just to catch you guys up, just wanted to let you know that we were talking about policies and late work and resubmissions and things like that. So we kind of went over that. But I wanted to also point out that even though late discussions are not accepted, resubmitting your assignment, you get one resubmission for each assignment. So take the feedback that I give you, make those changes, and resubmit it, because I really feel that's how we learn the best, is just kind of improving upon ourselves and on our work. Classroom and resources, we did a quick little virtual tour. We talked about announcements, that's how I'll be communicating with you, sending additional resources like our learning coach, our learning coach information. Who our learning coach will be posted soon, along with his or her schedule. And if you have any questions outside of the classroom, outside of lectures, please contact them. If our schedules just don't align, or if you need extra tutoring assistance, that is what they're there for. Okay, and then if you need to get any help from me, the best place is to come to the multi-session, which will be held tomorrow, same time. Okay, and this is not a formal lecture tomorrow. We're not going to be recording. There's no lecture. It's just kind of come and go as you want. Come work on your assignments, or come get things checked off. Come ask questions. This is your time to ask me questions, and for me to help you out with anything that you might be needing or struggling with. All right, so we're going to go over some how-tos if we have time later on at the end. Just kind of YouTube channel and downloading. You won't really need to know how to do that so much, other than where to access the recordings for YouTube, and that is just under the announcements. I will post that link for you, so there's no learning curve there required. Where to view your grades, comments, and feedback. Does everyone know where to look for that? Have you had classes before? Okay, good. So we won't spend too much time on that. I really want to get to the assignment and the assessment, because I think that's what we're all here for. But if you have any questions on how to embed images to discussions, really quick way is to just copy the image, highlight the image, and go to edit copy, and then paste it into the discussion box itself, the post box. So, and then hit post, and that should just paste your image right in there. There's other ways to embed the image, or take the link, the URL link, and embed it that way. But the easiest way I found is just to copy and paste the image into your discussion post. That's what I do, and it's kind of fast and it saves time. So I would do that. if you are having problems with that, that's a great question to bring to the multi-session tomorrow. Okay, I know that we missed a little portion of this, but if you feel lost or if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me. Email is the best way to reach me. Email me, or you can text me, and I'd be more than happy to get back to you via text. Like I said, I'm on Pacific Coast, so please be aware of the time zone difference, but if it's during normal business hours, I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Pay attention to assignment specs. It can almost seem overwhelming with all the specs that are given to you, dimensions and things that you need to include in your assignment. So make sure you go over them slowly. I usually like to have a checklist and kind of check off each one or highlight each one as I go down the list so I don't miss one. All right, please stay up to date with the course media and the Linda videos. I will not be covering a lot of that in class. I'm just going to be assuming you are doing that yourself. So that in some ways this is kind of a self-guided class, but I will be showing you tutorials and demos on how to do the assignments. Linda videos, yes, let me show you. Every student has access to the Linda videos, which are kind of mini tutorials on how to operate the software. And so I will do a quick share for you and show you what I'm referring to. Good question. Okay, so course information, usually you can find it there. Also under your week one, if you click on week one tab, it takes you to your week one overview. So these are your learning objectives for the week. And there's little videos that you'll go over under the assignment. Oh, here's your course media. So here's what you'll be watching. Here's a YouTube link to a pre-recorded lecture that you should see before you come to my lectures. Also, there's some text to read, but for the most part, use the lynda.com. This is the student access portal right here. If you click this, this will take you to where all of the videos are, and they go into the topics that we'll be going over this week, like what is typography, understanding fonts and typefaces. There's a video for each one of these. They're only like 2, 3, sometimes 5 minutes long, but they're very short and condensed. So this is a great way to keep up to date with the content in our class. Because like I said, we won't be going over any of this. This is a self-guided course. So you will be required to know this information and watch these videos. But I'm more here to demo the assignments, show you how to do them, what's expected. So we'll be spending our majority of the time going over that. Does that help, Josh? It's a great question. And I know there's many at home who probably were wondering that too. Okay, fantastic. So we'll go back to the slides and then we'll jump right into our assignment. First day, lots of housekeeping. We talked about multi-sessions. These are optional. You do not have to come. However, I feel that the students who do the best in my class usually are the ones that do attend lectures and multi-sessions. Now, you are more than welcome to work on your assignments and bring them into class and have me give you feedback before you submit. That will guarantee you a good grade. I can give you critique on the spot and you'll be able to make changes and then resubmit. So that's a really great way. Students like that because they get a grade instantly. I like that because I get to meet you and so kind of put a name with the assignment. So this is a win-win situation if you take advantage of it. This is a great place to ask questions. All right, how do we keep up? Sometimes there's a lot of assignments. I guarantee you're probably not just taking this class, you're probably taking other classes as well. So if you fall behind, please contact me and we'll go over a plan. Just don't drop off the face of the earth. I know some students, I can't even get a hold of them or they just stop emailing or staying in contact. And then at the last week, they're like, oh, how do I pass? And I'm like, I don't know, because we had to establish a plan weeks ago. So let's just make sure that we just communicate with each other, all right? I will work with you if you can work with me, and we'll just kind of be patient with one another and try to help each other get through this class. So you will need to watch the live sessions, coming to the multi-session and saying, okay, what do I need to know for my assignment? I've had students do that, and I will just say, you'll need to go watch the recording, you'll need to go watch the demos, and then you can come ask me specific questions about the assignment, but multi-sessions are not there to kind of rehash what we've already gone over. So just wanted to put that out there, but let's get an A in this class. Let's all understand these assignments. Every assignment will be demoed in the classes in these lectures, so it's not a waste of your time, that you are getting what you came here for. So the instructions can easily be misunderstood. There's a lot of questions. I've had emails already from people saying, what? So without seeing the demos, you definitely will be left in the dark. So make sure you come. For every assignment, please be aware that this class is a typography class only. So we're only going to be using letter forms, which are the letters or the characters in a font. But there will be no pictures, no illustrations, no graphics. Okay, I know it kind of sucks the fun out of it, but it's actually it's a really cool challenge to be able to create art with letter forms and with characters. So I want this to stretch you a little bit, but be aware that you will get docked points for using any of these other elements other than type, because after all, this is a type class, okay? Typography is still a type of graphic. You're right. It is a graphic in itself, and we're going to spend all mod learning about it. And but as far as graphics go, the ones I'm referring to are any vector art other than the type characters within a font family. So hopefully that clears things up. But yes, it is absolutely art, and we'll go more into that. All right, so let's talk about typography. Why do you think it's important that we dedicate an entire class to it? Just out of curiosity. Absolutely, because words have a huge impact in how they're presented. It's a way we communicate, like it or not. We communicate through visuals. I am a very visual person. That's how I learn the best. If I see something that's impactful, I'll remember it. Also, I think that it's a way that we get our message across. Have you ever sent a text and used all caps, or maybe been on the receiving end of a text or an email that was written in all caps? Or maybe someone said something in all caps. What might tone might that have to the message when something is in all caps? Yeah, you might expect maybe someone shouting at you, or maybe if you're in a heated debate or a heated conversation, they might be yelling at you or angry with you. Exactly. And so that is the visual communication. That is using type in such a way that communicates more emotion and feeling other than what is just being said. So we can already tell what kind of communication the other person on the other end is trying to exhibit by the type of typography that they used. By using all caps, they're sending a very bold message with some emotion behind it. So it can either help or hinder your choices. So we really want to be able to understand type. That is why during discussion 1, you're going to be kind of going over a history of type. You're going to be given a list of fonts, very classic fonts that have been time tested. They've been around for centuries. You're going to do a little research on one. You're going to pick one, and you're going to be kind of looking into who designed it, what was it used for, and why does it appeal to you? And we're going to talk about it, get that discussion going. You're also going to be doing on your assignment 1, with that font that you chose, doing a design assignment around it. So I really think this is going to be a great introduction to why type is important, and kind of get us familiar with the different kinds of type that's out there. Because if you have Illustrator or InDesign open right now, if you don't have either, go ahead and launch it, because we're going to jump right in. Look at your font options. I mean, just for a second, scroll down that entire font list and look at how many default fonts you have, or fonts that are already installed. I mean, I've probably got hundreds on mine. So there's tons to choose from, but there's very few classic typefaces. And so we're going to get to know them. And we're going to be talking about what's your type. And assignment 1 is typeface illustration. And this is by far my favorite assignment to teach. I just love this one. Do we have any Star Wars fans in the present? Yes. Okay. So our demo today will be a Star Wars typographic poster. So I'm going to show you, there was actually an Italian advertising agency who designed a series of Star Wars posters using just typography, just the characters within fonts, and created like Yoda and the Stormtroopers and Darth Vader. And so they created characters out of just the type characters, which is an example of what we're trying to achieve here. Just a little bit more complicated version, but I just love doing this, demoing this typeface illustration. So I'm going to go over how to do that in just a few minutes. I just want to get through this. So let's go ahead and launch right into our assignment 1 and go over that. Let's get Illustrator open, because that is the software we will be using for assignment 1. Illustrator is a fantastic program to use with vector art or anything that requires manipulating type. It's perfect for logo design. And so let me switch my view so that you can see it. And if you'll be working alongside with me, please go ahead and get Illustrator up and let me know when you're ready, and I'll wait for you so that I don't go too quickly. But I did want to show you, I can get this to kind of resize, and I'm going to minimize my window so that, okay. So if you would, what would probably be helpful for you is maybe just have week 1 assignment open with your Illustrator, kind of have them side by side. And if you're having trouble seeing my screen and kind of toggling back and forth, just make sure you hit the escape button on your keyboard, and that will kind of minimize the Zoom window for you a bit. All right, no problem. Okay, so then I will just go ahead and demo this just as I should. And I want to show you an example of what I'm going to do. Let me, must have closed down a bit. There we go. Let me drag it into Illustrator real quick for you so that you can see what we're going to be doing. What is so cool about these Star Wars type posters is that, like I said, this ad agency decided to do it, and it just really took off. It got a lot of momentum, and I saw it, and I'm like, this is perfect for our assignment. This is exactly what we're trying to embody. All right. My internet is very slow, so I apologize for the wait. So H57 was the ad agency, it was the Italian ad agency that did this and came up with these typographic posters, and I just think they were so clever. And I'm going to drag one in. Let's see. Just a minute. I've got so many windows open. I need to kind of close out and see if I can pull it into Illustrator for a minute. So anyways, the idea here is to be able to take the characters or the typefaces in your font family that you choose and create something around it. And it's supposed to be a portrait, so it's going to get a little tricky too, because you're not really allowed to stretch or to skew the characters in any way. So here's one poster that I saw that I really loved. This is about as complicated as you need to be. It needs to be very simple. I'll also show you some student examples from in the times past, what people have turned in to show you. Kind of we get a variation from complicated to very simple. And I really like this poster. They used several different kinds of fonts to achieve this look. The assignment does call for us to use one font and one font only. So we won't be going back and forth through different fonts. We'll pick one, and I'll be probably using Helvetica for the whole poster design. And let me go back to the assignment just so that we can talk a little bit about it. So seeing the creative possibilities of type and letter forms are really going to open new doors to you as a graphic designer. So if you're going into this as a career, I really want you to kind of train your mind as a designer to see beyond the traditional use of letter forms. It's not just used to as body text in text. It can be used like you even said, as graphics, as arts. It's a letter form. And so it's an exciting and engaging component in many forms of design, such as these kind of advertisements that you see, or maybe website design or logo design and more. So I want you to think about logos or brands that kind of catch your eye, and what is it about their typography that sets them apart? And how can you convey, what message are you trying to convey in your artwork by your font choices? So we're trying to kind of establish the fact that font should be chosen on purpose, not on accident, and that there should be a message, kind of an underlying reason why you've chosen what you've chosen. So everything is designed with a purpose. All right. So let's talk about the prompt for this assignment. You're going to create an abstract portrait illustration of the typeface that you research for your discussion. So portrait meaning only the face. We don't need neck and shoulders and body. It's just the face. And then you're given quite a few instructions, but there is a list of classic fonts that you need to choose from to research for week 1's discussion. And there's also a list of them under the assignment instructions, so you'll have that list. Very classic fonts like Times New Roman or Futura or Helvetica. In this case, I'll be using Helvetica or maybe Futura. I haven't decided yet, but one of those sans serif fonts so that I can kind of mimic this. And then from the fonts listed, you're going to kind of look up your font, research it. Look at the different characters that it offers. Carefully study all those characters of the font to kind of distinguish and analyze what different shapes you can create and the forms of your chosen typeface, okay? Are they elaborate? Are they simple? Are they compliant or domineering? Try to capture those qualities in the face that you create. So if you would like to focus on one specific style of the font, like medium condensed or bold italic, for example, you can do that. Or you can kind of keep it more general and just use any several styles of font. And let me show you what I mean by that. So if you go to your drop-down window and go down to Type and open up Character, and my character box is already open, so it's right here. But I'll show you where you change the font. So here at the top, where that little magnifying glass is, this allows you to type in what the font that you want, or you can kind of use the drop-down menu here. And you can kind of scroll through all these fonts using the scroll bar on your mouse. And you can pick one, and then it'll show display where your type is. Underneath that menu, it will also, here, let me pick up more classic fonts so you can see. Okay. Under here, it will give you the different kinds of styles that font can be stylized with. So condensed, ultra thin, regular, bold, heavy, italics. There's all different kinds of styles you can choose from within that font family. Some, and I like to think of fonts as kind of like us. Like what kind of family do you have? Do you have a big family or a small family? And I see a question here by Josh. Is the portrait up to us to create or imitate? So I would say to create. You definitely want to create your portrait. Now it can be, I believe in times past it was a portrait of yourself, but I'm very loose with that. If you want to create a portrait of your own of something else, go for it. As long as it's just a portrait of a face. Yeah, and so we've got a big family here. I come from a big family, what I thought was a big family, but I also have a small family. So some of us come from big families, others small families, some are large families, some are thin families. Just like a font, some fonts will have more characters to choose from, more font styles, and others may not have any at all. So it's just kind of like our siblings, our relatives, what kind of family do we have? It's the similar thing. So make sure you understand. So if you're like, oh man, I really wanted to use Gil Sans, but Gil Sans doesn't have the italic version of such and such, you just need to understand what kind of font and font styles it offers. All right, so sure, go for it. I want to see that. I'd love to. Love to see it. Yeah, and I'm not really picky with what your portrait resembles. I just want to see you use the typeface in a creative way. That's what I'm grading, okay? So it can be about you, it can be something else, it can be Yoda for all I care. I just want to make sure that you're having fun with this, okay? All right, so let's set up our document. Let's go to File. Go to New. This is how you will set up a new document every time. All right, so with the new document panel that pops up, this is where you'll, under the preset details, where you'll enter your title. So all assignments need to be saved the same way. It's under the submission instructions on each assignment, but just to let you know, it's your class name underscore what the assignment's called, assessment 1 or assignment 1 underscore, and then your first and last name, okay? So you'll save it as that. The width should be 8.5 inches, height 11 inches, and then just make sure that your unit of measurement is on inches, okay? Some illustrators or InDesign will default to other units of measurement like picas, so just make sure that your inches is selected. And then you can only use characters from your chosen font. You can use glyphs, and I'll show you there's a whole other hidden library of characters to be able to access within these fonts. But once you've set up your document to an 8.5 by 11, you'll just hit Create. And you'll be given a blank canvas here. And this is where you'll kind of go through how you start your assignment. So I'll kind of get us started off. I'll do the Yoda one. Now, the way that I would normally do this is if I were going to trace a picture or set something up so I could copy something, or maybe try to, I don't know, if I were to pull in my own picture into here and then want to use type to kind of create the nose and the eyes, what I would do is bring in your image, go to Window, scroll down to Layers, and then with your Layers panel open, you would kind of lock this layer right here so you can't move it. You can also, under your layers, change the opacity. So I can select this and I can change the opacity on it so it's light, but I can still see it enough to trace it. And then I will lock that layer. Unlocking that layer allows me to move things around, but not the background. The one, it allows me to keep things in place. So then you'll create a new layer right here. It's that kind of dog-eared page by the trash can. So I'm on layer 2 now, and it helps to layer my, to name my layer so I don't lose my place. So this is my work, or you can title it Portrait. And then this is example. So I want to make sure I'm on my portrait layer, and I will grab my type tool. All type starts with the type tool. You simply click and drag on your screen, and then you can type in the characters that you want to use. So to do his head, I need parentheses. So I'm going to highlight this parentheses, and I'm going to change my font to Helvetica, because that's the font I'm going to use. You can do it in your character box, the character panel here, or you can also do it up here at the top. All your character information is here at the top. And I'm going to increase my font so I can see it. And I'm going to make sure that I'm using a light version of this. All right, so I've increased my font. Now, here's a tricky thing, but this is something that will help you very much. You need to do what we call create outlines, where we turn the font. It's no longer editable at this point, but you'll go to Type, Create Outlines, and you're turning the font into its own vector, basically. And you'll be able to, you will no longer be able to edit it with the Type tool. Now it will become more vector art. So to rotate it, you just hover over the corner, and you can kind of rotate the object. Let me zoom in a little further so we can see it. Also, you can, you're kind of not supposed to stretch or skew, so we really want to make sure we maintain the integrity of the parenthesis here. But if I need to resize it, I need to be able to hold down Shift. Shift will help constrain the proportion, so as I shrink it up or down, it will still maintain its proportions. So Yoda will look a little off since I'm not allowed to stretch or skew, but I think we'll get the idea. So I'm just going to copy and paste this exact object. So I'm going to hit Command C, Command V will paste. You can also do it by going up to Edit, Copy, and Paste, just like that. And if you'll notice under these commands on the right side is the keyboard shortcut. So if you want to know how to do it without having to go to your menu every time, it saves you time, you just memorize the keyboard shortcut. And so I'm rotating this, and I'm going to rotate it until I get the right angle. And again, I'm just going to kind of eyeball this a little bit. Hold down Shift so I can get this to expand proportionately. All right, are there any questions before I continue or go on? Okay, perfect. So with this example layer locked, I'm able to have my portrait layer selected, and I'm just going to go over. This is a very simple one, so it has simple characters. This one is just a bracket, and I'll go to Type, Create Outlines, and I will do this every time with my characters so that I can move it and shape it. Okay, and I'm gonna probably need to adjust this a little bit just because I'm trying to imitate it. And then I'll try to rotate it at the right angle. All right, good, close enough. So then I'm gonna copy and paste it again. I'll tell you what, memorizing those keyboard shortcuts will save you a ton of time and help you move a little quicker. Yes, you can also transform flip. That's another thing you could do. So you can select your object, copy and paste it, and then if you wanted to flip it, you would right click on it and go to transform, and then click reflect. And then you can reflect it either horizontally or vertically, and then give it the angle 90 degrees. We'll flip it just fine. So that's a great little shortcut as well. Great job. I sometimes forget it's there. You start getting into the manual mode a little too much. So that's a great tip. So yes, flipping your object is very helpful. All right, let's just keep going with these parentheses. I'm just going to keep copying the ones I've already drawn. I'm going to shrink them down. This is going to become my eyebrows, or I guess Yoda's eyebrows. And again, once you've kind of created a character or kind of drawn one out, in this case, it's just a matter of copying and pasting and then kind of placing, kind of arranging it at the right angle so it captures Yoda. And again, I'm just going to copy and paste. Use a lot of parentheses being used here. However, I'm going to try to be sensitive to the sizing. I don't want them all to be the same size. I'll copy and paste. I give that a little rotation. But it does save a ton of time if you can format one character and then kind of use it throughout. I'm going to grab this one. Again, I could flip it. It's pretty incredible that designers are able to come up with, create portraits out of just type. I mean, I'm going to use Josh's fancy flip trick here. So I'm going to hit right click, transform, and reflect. And then we're going to go to vertical, 90 degrees, hit OK. And that's going to flip that one because I just need it to go right down. Here's the other cheekbone. And then I'll grab this one. Kind of rotate it under. This one will require just a little bit of stretching. You hate to do that because we're not supposed to, but I guess if it serves the greater purpose, I'm okay with that. We just don't want to make things look like they're skewed is all. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my type tool again and type out that dash, which is his mouth. Let me extend this text box a little bit. I'm going to shrink the font down a little bit. There it is. And then expand it. I'll go to Type, Create Outlines. And then this will allow me to kind of stretch it to the size that I need. So again, nothing too overly complicated, but in the end, you kind of create a very cool effect piece of art. So this, for the eyes, I believe it's just zeros or O's. Let me see if I can, let me try a 0. Oh, okay, so the eyes are not going to look exact because the artist did, or the designer used different fonts to achieve the look, and we're supposed to use the same font. So what I'm going to do is try to get something as close as possible. Oops. There we go. There we go. All right, let's do a 0. Or maybe an O. O is probably better. And then I will really make it bold. I'll go to Type, Create Outlines. And this will become his eyes. And I'll copy that over. Another way to copy really quickly is to hold down the Alt or the Option button, depending on if you're on a PC or Mac, clicking and dragging. So when I hold down Alt, Option, you'll see my mouse automatically turns to black and white arrow. That's indicating that it's going to copy. Yeah, or you could use a comma. That's a good idea. See, lots of characters you can use, lots of options. I'm going to use a capital D here for his nose. And it looks kind of thin, so I'm going to lighten it up. Go to Type, Create Outlines. I'll rotate it. Hold down Shift to have it stop at the right angle. And I'm just going to kind of bring that in. All right, so it's not perfect. It's not exact because they were using other font types for this, but I will show you what it looks like. So once you have your design created, I'm going to hide the example, and you will see the work behind it. Still Yoda, still epic, exactly. So here he is. He's kind of tiny, so I'm going to shrink him, or I'm going to expand him. So what I'm going to do is highlight all of my characters. So the way that you do that is click and drag on your screen until you've filled the box with all your characters. Or you can do Command A if you're on a PC, or Control A if you're on a, Command A if you're on a Mac, Control A if you're on a PC. That will select all. Hold down Shift as you expand your characters, and this will help you keep everything grouped. So now you've got your work, and you can kind of make it nice and prominent, nice and big. And then at the bottom here, you're going to talk about the font. And I believe what you need to do, I think you just need to type the font family that you used. So in this case, I would say I used Helvetica. And let me just double check so I don't tell you guys wrong. I want to make sure I have it. Yep. You just put, you can put what it is, or you can just put the font family just so that I know what font you use, what font you chose. Make sure your smart guides are on too, so you can kind of have everything set up. But there you go. There's your guy. And there's your art. And it can be just as simple as that. I mean, it looked complicated at first, but once you broke it down to, well, half his face and half the art was parentheses, just flipped, then it kind of changes your perception a little bit on how simple this can be. So, and then to kind of show you a little further, I wanted to show you some of the student examples, if we have time at the end of class, what other students did to turn in their work. And like I said, some are very simple. But I want you to have fun with this. Pick a character that you like and go with it. All right, so I'm going to close out of this and we're going to shift gears a little bit. So let's do our assessment one. So that is the portrait. So before we end, do you have any questions, anything that you might want to know? I'm going to see if I can pull up any student examples. All right, let's go through this real quick. If we have time, we'll go through it. I just wanted to make sure we made time for the demos. I have a few videos to show you guys too. Let me show you a video and then we'll go to our break, and then for the second half we'll jump into our assessment one. So there is a video kind of talking about the history of typesetting, but that is not the one I want to share with you. I think I have it up here. All right, I got the face examples up, so let me show you what other students have turned in real quick, and then we'll go into the movie. See if it'll let me share it. There we go. Okay, so obviously characters of your own. So here's some work. Again, some will be very complicated, some will not be. And then you've kind of got the font family here that they chose. This is Futura, very clever. I mean, this is creative stuff. These are just some of my favorites. I absolutely think these are just so cool. Got a side portrait on. So see if you can see the face. Some of these use a font that it's hard to see it at first, but if you look, you're like, oh, I see it. You see it? And this one's very simple, but again, it's a portrait. You see it when you squint. It's kind of hard. It makes you look twice. And this one's cool. I like the braces with all the Ks. I thought that was creative. And this is very simple. So again, it's kind of just to have fun with. Lots of different takes. Don't do a reverse text one, please. But I did want to show you that this is what students have turned in and kind of get those creative juices flowing. Hopefully it gives you some ideas. But I cannot wait to see what you guys all come up with. I mean, I think this is going to be a fun assignment. All right, so we'll go back and I will show you that video. If I can find it. If not, we'll go ahead and take our break. Let's just take our break while I look for it, and then we will come back in 10 minutes, and then we'll go over the other assessment. We'll watch that video and then talk a little bit more about type. So let me get the whiteboard up here. I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Are there any questions before we go to break? All right, we'll see you later. Okay, so we're back and we're going to shift gears here, and now we're going to go ahead and close out of Illustrator, and what I've got up and running is my InDesign. So I am going to, oh, it looks like we've got two come. Oh, it's still Josh. Go ahead and close out. Hey Josh, I'm going to close your video just for a second. There we go. Perfect. There we go. All right. So now we're going to be in InDesign. So if you have InDesign up, please feel free to follow along. I'm going to show you there are a few more specifications that are needed for this assessment. So this one's a little bit more detail oriented, but for this assessment, you're going to be basically setting a page of type to some very detailed specifications. The text is all provided for you, so you can just download it. There's a link under your prompt, and then you use InDesign, and you're just going to follow the specifications that you're given below exactly. You're not being graded on any type of creativity for this assignment. All the creativity, I want you to save it for your portrait assignment. You're only going to be graded on how well you understand the terminology, typesetting tools, and how you follow directions. So let's start with how to create a new document in Adobe InDesign. You simply go to File, New, and then select Document. What that does is it pulls up a new document dialog box here, new document panel. Up at the top under Preset Details is where you'll give the name of your assignment, and all assignments from here on out will be saved the same way. So the class name, the assignment name, and then your first and last name. The width is same, standard 8.5 by 11, and units of measurement is going to be inches. And then we only need this to say one page. We want to deselect facing pages. We do not want pages side by side. That is only if we're designing a magazine or a book or maybe pamphlets, but right now we just need it to say one page, and we'll start on page 1. And then for the margins, so margins are found right here below. If you don't see it, just click that little arrow to kind of reveal the margins. Now this is very specific, so all margins need to be 1/2 inch. So right now I have a 3/4 of an inch on this one, so I'm just going to type 1/2 inch. Okay, so I've got 1/2 inch on all of these, top, bottom, left, and right. And then under the column section, up here at the top, we want to make sure that this says 2. So you can either enter into or use the drop-down arrow. And then you'll just default to the column gutter, whatever the default is. All right, and then you'll hit OK. I think that's it for setting it up. Oh, whoops. Give it a second. It's doing some thinking, and then I'll share it again. You know, it closed out on us because I was sharing my new document. It's going so slow. I've been having so many issues with InDesign lately. It has not been my friend today. Let's hope we get along just enough so that I can demo this. There we go. You'll find that with this software, it's very fickle. Yeah, I should have the update already. I'll have to go check that. They're always updating that thing, huh? I will definitely check that, so maybe we'll have more smooth sailing here in the future. Okay, so now we're going to just set up our basic text, and you should have already been given the text. The Art of Typesetting is the name of the text document, so if you don't already have that up, go ahead and go download it now so you have it in your downloads folder for later if you're not planning on designing along with me, that you'll have it. We're going to need the text so that we can set up our baseline grid. So what I'm going to do is open up my my Word document, and there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either copy the text and paste it right into your text boxes in InDesign, or you can go to File and Open and have it flow in. So before we're going to do that, we're going to set up our text box with 2-column grid here. So I'm going to grab my Type tool, and I'm going to select a text box. using these purple margin lines as my guidelines. I do not want my text box to go past that purple margin line. I want it to line up with it because that margin line specifies the safety area. It's kind of like your safety zone for all text and images. Whatever goes out of bounds, out of that purple margin line, could potentially be cut off if you send it to the printer, or maybe things might not display correctly when you do print your project. So it's always helpful to practice keeping things within that margin line. So I've got my first text box set up, and I'm going to copy another text box. And the way I did that was hold down my Option button or your Alt button if you're on a PC. And you can copy it, or you can simply hit Copy, Paste, which is Command-C, Command-V, or Control-C, Control-V. Or you can go to Edit, Copy, and Paste up here. Now that I have my two text boxes set up, what I need to do is I need to sync them. So with this first text box selected, here at the bottom, there is a bigger anchor point right here. See if you can see it. I'm going to scroll down. So this little anchor point above the corner anchor point, I'm going to click that. And when I do, you'll notice that my mouse changes. And it almost looks like there's text in there. What it's doing is it's saying, are you ready to link this? Because you even see that chain. When I move to the next text box, you see my mouse change. So it's saying, we're going to connect these two text boxes. So I'll click in that text box. So what that does, I'll back up for a minute. By clicking that anchor point, you'll now see there's a little triangle in it, and I'll click anywhere in this second text box, and now that triangle is in that text, or that anchor point. What that's saying is these two text boxes are connected. So whatever text flows through the first one will automatically flow through the second one. So I'll show you what I mean. With the first one selected, I'm going to go to File, let's see, File, Place, and then I will flow that text in there. I'll go where you downloaded the document, Archetype setting, and I'll hit Open. All right, so now you can see I've got it. So I'm just going to click anywhere inside that text box, and it will automatically flow my text in. So what's nice about this was that I didn't have to copy and paste it in and then format the text boxes. I got them placed where I needed them to be, and then I connected them. So now the text flows into one and out the other. So it's in this nice 2-column grid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this heading out for just a minute. I'll just kind of cut it and paste it somewhere else for now. All right, so now I'm going to go in and set my text to a baseline grid. If you hit W on your keyboard, it's kind of a shortcut which toggles between two different displays. You can also achieve this display by going to View and then going to Grids and Guides. And you always want to make sure that you have Snap to Guides checkmarked and Smart Guides turned on. There's also something called Show Baseline Grid. So you'll click on Baseline Grid, and you'll notice it looks like notebook paper. It's got these lines showing, indicating where these lines are. This is your baseline grid. The idea here, though, is to have all of the text line up with it. And it's more than just moving the text box. We don't want to move the text box. But as you can see, some of these blue lines are going right through the text. They're not all falling on the same line, and they're not all lining up together. So that's a problem, and we need to be able to fix that. So the way that we do that is first we need to set up our font size. So the body copy, I'm going to hit Command A or Control A if you're on a PC, and that will highlight or select all. So with my cursor blinking in my text box, I'll hit Command A to select everything inside of it. Then I'm going to pull up my character panel. And remember how we did that in Illustrator? We go to Window, go to Type in Tables, and then across at the top is Character. And Character is where we're going to change our font family. Font family is specified as Times New Roman. That's what they want us to be using. And they want the font size to be 14. So I've got my baseline grid here. things are moving around, but it's not yet right. So I'm sorry, the font is 10, but the leading is 14. And your leading is right across from your font size, right here. And you have any questions as what is what, just hover your mouse over it and we'll tell you. And leading, does anyone know what leading is? We often hear that term a lot. And you'll hear me refer to it when I give you feedback. So I want to make sure that we understand what leading is. Yeah, very good. It's the space between your lines of text. So it's the space between these two sentences. That is leading. And depending on whether it's typed or spacious, it will need to be adjusted at some point. So the space between the lines of type, and this needs to be adjusted proportionately to fit the size of the type. So the larger your font, the more you have to increase your leading so that text and type don't run into each other. So leading has a big effect on the density, the legibility, and the flow of text. So that's why we place a lot of emphasis on it. So now that my Times New Roman is at size font 10 and the leading is adjusted to 14, we need to go and adjust our baseline grid, okay? Because see, I can zoom in here and still things are not all lined up. Some lettering is kind of sitting on the middle of that line, while others is at the top of the line. Baseline grid is not set up. So this is what we need to do. We're going to go to the top of our InDesign, where it says InDesign CC, and you're going to click on Preferences. You'll click on, let's see, Grids. And then it brings up a Preferences panel. So I'll do that one more time. You go to File. Let me cancel out so you can see that. You'll go to File. Sorry, not File. InDesign. Preferences. Grids. And then here is your baseline grid setup. This is where we're going to change the specifications to make sure we know it's going to fall on the baseline grid. So we need to make sure this view threshold is low. I'm going to set mine to about 25%. Whoops, I did not want to click out of that. Okay, go back to grids. So I'll set it to 25%. Now here is where you're going to notice something. Increment every, this box, needs to match the value of your leading. And our leading is at 14. So we need to make sure the increment every is also at 14. Whatever your font leading happens to be, if you want it to line up properly on the baseline grid, the increment every value has to match your leading. So sometimes students will come and say, I cannot for the life of me get my baseline grid to line up, and I have no idea why. Most often than not, it's because their values do not match. So we just need to make sure that those are the same. Okay? And then let's see, relative will be at the top of the page. And I think that's all we need to know for the baseline grid. So we'll keep everything the same. I'll hit OK. All right, so it's better. We can now see things are lined up, but they're not lined to the baseline grid. So we just want to make sure we select both boxes. You can select both boxes by clicking and dragging until they both are selected, or you can hold down your Shift button and select both boxes, and that will select them at the same time. All right, and then you want to kind of make sure that you, let's go to, I'm going to go to paragraph, see if I can find it. Type in tables, character, I think I've got it all. All right. Oh, there we go. Let's select, just make sure your cursor is blinking inside a text box, and then under here, under your paragraph settings, at your top left area here, you'll notice how this column, if we're going to go right across, all the way across to this area right here, where you see these columns, these do not align to the baseline grid, and that's where we're at right now. So right below it, we want to make sure it's aligned to baseline grid. So you see how that automatically aligned my text to the baseline. So now let's zoom in and let's look at this. We want to make sure that all of the text is lined up with that blue line. And it all is. So now everything can be read clean and across the page just like it's meant to. So that is, in a nutshell, the baseline grid, which is probably one of the most confusing of the specifications that you will have. But hopefully with all those steps, you're able to rewind me and pause me and be able to figure this out if you're not following along. All right, so now let's talk about how to format the headline. So I've got my headline right here. And I put it in a separate text box because I simply want to be able to have it go across the page. I'm going to use my margin lines as kind of my, I guess, my viewpoint. Oh, and I should mention, once you have your text aligned to the baseline grid, you won't need to move your text boxes anymore, because when you'll notice as I move a text box down, it will all snap to the baseline grid. So you won't really need to see the baseline grid anymore. So you can go back up to view, because it's kind of busy and it's hard to design with a busy background. You kind of lose, I don't know, it's hard. It's easier to make mistakes if there's too much going on. So you can simply hide the baseline grid like that. So now, no matter if you move your boxes, it will still snap to the baseline grid. All right, and then with the art of typesetting is where you'll kind of adjust the sizes. So for the headline, it tells you to use Arial. So you'll want to make sure your character panel is open. Type in Arial, and then it gives you the size increment. So we want it to be set to the top of page and 14-point increments. So we're going to kind of go up like that. It says 61. So we're going to 61. And I'm going to move these down and kind of make room for this headline. Uh, 61. And then it says tracking is 10. I don't know if 61 is going to actually fit on my page. There you go. With your smart guides on, you could kind of center that. There we go. All right. And then it asks for you to adjust the body copy. So we've already done the body copy, the left alignment. So we're going to highlight your text. We're going to go to paragraph now. And on the left alignment, that's left in it. Let's see. So this is where you'll find your paragraph. So left aligned, everything's left aligned. This is centered, this is right aligned, and then you've got your justified. So this is where you'll adjust your paragraph settings, but you'll want the align left paragraph setting. And then you'll want to add 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch space after the paragraphs. So probably it says after, right here, 0.125 inches, just like that. So you want to fill this one in. Okay. And then that's your right indent, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Okay, and then we will align all lines to baseline grid. We've already done that, so that's done. Now we'll add a drop cap. So let me not get too ahead of myself real quick. Let's go back to this headline. They do ask that for the headline, you create and apply the following paragraph styles. So maybe not for the headline, but we will need to create and apply a paragraph style to the body copy. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the body copy. I'm going to open my type in tables and click on, oh no, we want styles. So here in window styles, click on, let's see, paragraph styles. And what this is it's kind of presets so that you can save it and then apply it later to other documents or to other elements within the document. This is a great place to kind of save settings, so you can save yourself some time. You don't have to keep adjusting the body copy. So say you're working with a 100-page document. This would come in very handy so that you could adjust each page quickly. You'll have all your presets saved. So we're going to create one. I'm going to double click on it, This is going to be called my body copy. And I'm just going to go make sure that everything is correct. So right now I've got my basic character format. So everything's Times New Roman, size 10, leading 14. It's regular. That's all I need. So this is all set. So I'll hit OK. Now I'll create a new one. And the way you create is this little dog ear page at the bottom. It says create new style. So I'll double click this one, and this one's going to be my drop cap because we're going to have a new setting. So on my basic character format, everything will be the same except at the bottom, I'm going to go to drop caps and nested styles. And it gives us the specifics, like set to 3 lines. So lines will be 3. And then apply it to the first paragraph only. So we don't want it on everything. So I'm going to see. You know what? I probably won't highlight all of it. I'm just going to highlight this one. There we go. Do the drop cap. 3. Drop cap. Perfect. And then under the body copy, if you wanted to specify drop caps, you could just do the one character. And here's where you'll change it. So on the other one, I'll hit OK. See if it'll let me take it off. There we go. Hold on. We're going to go back. There we go. There we go. So now we've just applied it to the first letter. Thanks, Josh. Have a great night. Okay, so then what we're going to do is create the subheadings. So your subheadings are going to be here where I'm just going to put a return setting type, and I'm going to put a return after each paragraph. I might not need to do that actually. I'm just going to kind of indent the paragraph. And setting type. So our subheadings will be a new paragraph style. This will be subheadings. And then this one's going to be Arial. So we'll go down to basic character formats. This will be Arial. They want us to set it to regular, 10 and 14. Or I'm sorry, bold. I'm going to do that one bold. All right. So this one's set to bold. 14 point. I'll just type 14 in there. Tracking is 10. And then we're going to make sure it's centered alignment. So I'm going to go to paragraph rules. Let's see. Indents and spacing. I think everything's good. All right. In general, I think it's all good. I'll hit OK. I'm also going to center it just like that. All right, and same with basic adjustments. I'm just going to click on that subheading and center it. I want to put a return in between. See if there's any other one that I need to be aware of. But anyways, you kind of get the idea, right? So it's just basically formatting your text, following the example. If you have any questions, they give you benchmark examples of the way it's supposed to look. And then what we're going to need to do is go in and start adding bullet points. So we're going to start with font family all the way to drop caps. So same as the body copy, everything's the same. We're going to go and create a new paragraph style. This is bullets. I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to go to indents and spacing. Oh, no, bullets and numbering. That's where we want. So we want the bullet character. We want to set it to bullets. And then here is where we're going to adjust everything. So the left indent is 0.125, so 0.125 inches. And then the first line indent is like that. So 1/8 of an inch for each one. And then we're going to create this character style and apply to the first word only in each bullet. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And then I'm going to highlight the first word. I'm going to create new. And then first word only. I'm going to go to basic character formats, and we're going to bold this. Okay, and then I'm going to go to bold it. So I want to make sure it's all bolded. So for the same one, there we go. So this one is a bolded bullet. And same with each one of these. And I'm using the eyedropper tool, which has copied the properties from the other paragraph style. And I'm just going here, anything that comes before the little colon there. So what am I going to be looking for when I grade? I'm just going to be looking for, did you follow instructions? Did you set up your paragraph styles? Do you have basic formatting and layout done here? So if there's, if you run out of room here at the bottom, just highlight each box, select each box and kind of bring it up. I'll give you some room here at the bottom to stylize. And then this one just needs to be put on the far right and italicized. Italics, just like that. All right, and then I'm just trying to see, oh, there's a return here. Perfect. So we've got space between each one. Trying to see if there's anything else that was left out. Oh, probably need a gap here. And I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so it looks like we've kind of gotten through everything on this list. We've created character styles. We've applied it to the first word only. Byline is Times New Roman. We do need to adjust the size to this. So this is not 10, it's supposed to be 8. Right alignment, which we have. And then you'll select the text starting with the font families to the right before the byline for the bulleted list. So basically you're just keeping design principles and good compositional rules in mind. Keep all the text within the margin line. Remember the margin line is that magenta, that purple magenta line. You want everything within it, align all the text boxes, and then save your work. So here's how we save. You're going to go to File. This is for InDesign, and then I'll show you how to do it through Illustrator. So you're going to go to File. You're going to Save, and then you're going to Export PDF presets. Go to Smallest File Size. You'll click on Smallest File Size, and then your Export dialog box will pop up. And you'll just make sure you know where you're saving it. So I'm just going to save it to my desktop because it's easy to find. You'll have an export panel pop up. Make sure that the preset is smallest file size. And then you'll just make sure that the pages are correct. So I just keep all selected and hit export. You don't really need to change anything for this assignment. So that's the good news. So, and a best practices is always keep all of your native and working files that you use to create a project, because not only are you going to get a chance to resubmit, But you're also going to need these when you reach your portfolio or your capstone course. So continue with the best practice, because a client may want to reprint and make changes on existing projects at a later time, and you'll never know when that's going to happen. So I always like to keep a backup old file where it's my original file and I can make changes and go in as I please. So keep a folder and make sure that you keep the file, so that if I say, hey, go back and make this change, you're able to go do that. You don't have to start your work all over, okay? If you ever want to toggle between views, you'll hit W on your keyboard, and that will take away some of your lines and your smart guides and stuff, and that will kind of help you see a fresh perspective of what it looks like. And then, yeah, that's it. So if you want to see any benchmark examples, check out the task benchmark examples under the assignment. But find any fonts under the type kit. But now I want to go into talking a little bit about, oops. There we go. I'm going to go into my slides real quick. Here we go. All right, so let's talk about typography for a minute. Just so that we're aware of the terms, there are some terms that we're going to need to know. So what is typography? So InDesign is now the industry standard for setting type. And it has so many tools and options that it can be a little bit overwhelming. So when you start to get into all the menus and typesetting options, we're going to start with some of the basics and how they affect the readability and functionality of the text. So the first one we went over earlier was the font. So I'm going to skip ahead here, kind of understanding the letter form a little bit. Here's a link that you can check out. It just talks about the history of the printing press. This is very interesting, understanding the letter form. But in this case, we're going to look at the anatomy here for a minute. This is the font family. This is a particular font in a font family. And the font family, like we talked about earlier, is your font options. They're organized into families that each have a name, just like you and your family. So for example, Helvetica, Minion, Bodoni, Futura. Every font has specific characteristics that influence how it's read and how it flavors the text. And so that's why it's so crucial to get to know these fonts so that we can learn how to use them in our designs. So font styles, for example, most fonts include several styles. These are variations that keep the same basic characteristic of the font, but kind of with an added quality like bold or light or italic. Different styles can be used for emphasis and contrast or other specific purposes. So it's important to understand your font. Here we go. Let's skip this for a minute. Here we go. There's our type classification. So we talked about font style. Those are the typefaces. Font size. I wanted to show you this slide. This one goes over the X and Y height of your ascenders and descenders. Basically, font size is just how it's measured in points. So if you've ever used Word, like a Word document, writing an essay for college, you'll know they were very specific in what font point to use, right? Same thing with InDesign. All fonts are not the exact same physical size. So even if they're the same point size, characteristics of the font, such as its height or width, are going to be determined how large they actually come out when they're used. So the size of the font is of different importance, whether you're designing for web or for print. So as we can see, there's something called an ascender. This is how tall your font is. There's also a descender. How far does your font reach the bottom of the descender line? And so these are ways, indicators of what makes the anatomy of the font is what makes our font so special. And so we want to be able to familiarize ourselves as well with this kind of anatomy of the fonts that we're going to be using. because it will really help us to stylize our designs. There's also something called leading, which is not on the slide right now, but I wanted to talk about the leading and see if I can find an example. Again, these are classifications. These are all font families. There is something called serif and sans serif. Sans serif does not have those little tick marks or the extra flair or the things that you see at the end of a font, like you see there at the top, serif or Baskerville. That one is a serif font that has the little tick marks or the little feet at the end of the font that are very crucial to have. Distinguishes serif from sans serif. Sans serif means without. So that one does not have it. There's also hand script fonts and decorative fonts, and you'll get to know all these fun fonts, and you'll come to find out which ones are more legible and which ones are not. If you want a brief history on typography, there's a short animated video here that we will try to watch here at the end of class. We won't get to all of it, but I will show you. But here's the serif versus sans serif. Which one do you prefer? It's all going to depend on your assignment. We talked about classifications, types, and font families. So think of it as like your family tree. Ancestry is kind of big and trending right now. So when it comes to your family tree, this is just how we envision a font family. So you've got this name of the family here at the bottom, and then is it regular or bold? These are all the relatives, the different types of people that make up that font family tree. So individuals, kind of like your mother and father and relatives that way. There are family personalities. There's ethnics and family traits in individuals with each type of font. Bold, italic, smaller, large. Is this decorative or old style? How is this modern or contemporary? So there are different personalities with each font, and it's important to know and kind of fun to experiment with. Again, here are some examples of font styles. Okay, when it comes to viewing fonts, if you have a Mac or if you have a PC, it's going to depend, but there's alternatives available for PC. So not all fonts are compatible with Mac, and not all fonts on PC you'll find on a Mac. So to make it even more complicated, you'll have different font styles. But if you stick with something pretty traditional like Times New Roman, something that's been around for, centuries, you'll be able to find there is some crossover. Not all fonts will cross over into PC or into Mac. But in the Adobe applications, there's a character panel. You can sample and preview, and then there's something called Adobe Typekit, which we'll talk about more during week 2, but this Typekit will allow you to choose fonts to use. It's kind of another library of fonts that are available to you. So let's look at glyphs real quick. This will be especially helpful when you're designing in Illustrator. Let me pull up my, I don't know if it'll let me do it in InDesign. Let me see. If I go to type, it should. Under the type drop-down menu, there's something called glyphs. So if you pull up the glyphs and kind of expand this box, you'll see hundreds of different characters that are available under this one font alone, and this font is Minion Pro. But if I were to change that to Times New Roman, you'll notice how large this family is. This family is quite large and has tons of characters. You can go slow, you'll see it's got smiley face, a sun, spades, diamonds, music notes. Lots of different kinds and options, and these characters are fun to use as well. So if I were to use one of these characters, I would just simply grab my type tool. I'm just going to draw it here on the side so you can see. But with your cursor blinking, just double click inside and then find a character that you'd like to use. So in this case, I'm just going to pick one. I'll just pick this one right here. And I'll expand this a little bit so that you can see it. You'll notice it popped up right in my type box. So you will have to double click to see it. I don't know what character I just grabbed, but this is how you use it. Now, if I were to change this font to, say, Arial, still a lot to choose from, a lot of characters, but there are some fonts that just don't have as many. And so you'll notice that like this one has different ones. This one has like an apple symbol, different characters, and it's a lot smaller. The list does not go on quite as extensively as Times New Roman or Helvetica. So just be aware, different fonts will give you different characters. Everyone's different, but this is really cool to use if you wanted to expand your character library a little bit when it comes to your portrait. So this is how you'll use it. Same way, you'll access it the same way in Illustrator as you would InDesign. So just go to Type, select Glyphs, and hit OK. All right, I believe that's all the time that we have right now. I'm going to show a short little video, two actually. One is the Helvetica trailer. So this kind of gives us a little introduction to our type. Oops. Give me 1 second as I set it up. Things are so much more delayed when I've got a million windows open. Okay, so we are gonna just share this so you can see it. I'll go ahead and hit play. All right, so we'll stop that there. Let me see if I can find the other video for us. All right, and here is the history of typography that I want to show you. It's a bit long, so we might not get to all of it, but I just wanted to share it.
Type is power. The power to express words and ideas visually. It's timeless, but always changing. And that's what we're going to explore. Most people agree that the creator of typography was a German man named Johannes Gutenberg, and yes, he wore a hat like that. Before Gutenberg came along and revolutionized the world of communication, books needed to be scribed by hand, usually by monks, which was very time-consuming and expensive. So Gutenberg created blackletter, the first ever typeface, modeled after the writing of the scribes. Blackletter has thick vertical lines and thin horizontal connectors, which made it great for scribing, but it looked very dense and squished together when printed. Something needed to change. Enter Roman type. This particular typeface is Cambria, which you're probably used to seeing on your word processor, but the first ever Roman typeface was created in the 15th century by the Frenchman Nicolas Jenson. This is his typeface right here. Jenson worked mainly in Venice, Italy, and was inspired by the lettering found on ancient Roman buildings. His letter forms were based on straight lines and regular curves. This made them very clear and legible compared to the dense darkness of blackletter. This legible new typeface was an instant success and quickly spread across Europe, riding on the coattails of the Renaissance. The next major innovation in typography after Roman letters was italics, which are like slanted and stylized versions of Roman type. They were created in the late 15th century by Aldus Manutius from Italy as a way of fitting more letters onto the page and saving money. Now we use italics interspersed in Roman type for emphasis. All this minutiae also created the modern comma and semicolon, but that's another story. Type development stayed fairly stagnant until the 18th century in England, when William Caslon created a typeface that set a new standard for legibility. While it wasn't anything radical, it was just what the world was looking for. The style of Caslon's typeface is now referred to as Old Style. A few decades later, another Brit named John Baskerville created a new variety of typeface, which we call transitional. Later still, a Frenchman named Didot and an Italian named Bodoni created typefaces that we have classified as modern. Most serif typefaces fit into one of these three categories, but what does each category mean? An old-style typeface has letters that have thick serifs and low contrast between thick and thin strokes. A transitional typeface has letters with thinner serifs and a higher contrast between thick and thin strokes. And a modern typeface has letters with very thin serifs and extreme contrast between thick and thin strokes. Next, William Caslon's great-grandson, named William Caslon IV, got sick of all of these serifs, so he decided to remove them entirely and made a new kind of typeface called a sans serif. It didn't catch on immediately, but would eventually get really big. During the Second Industrial Revolution, advertising created a need for new typefaces. Letters were made taller and wider, mainly used in large sizes on posters and billboards. Things got pretty weird, but one happy result of all of this experimentation is Egyptian, or slab serif. It has really thick serifs and is usually used for titles. As a backlash to the complexity found in typefaces of the 19th century, the early 20th century brought something simple. Paul Renner from Germany created a typeface called Futura, and it was based on simple geometric shapes. This is called the geometric sans. Around the same time, a British man named Eric Gill created a typeface called Gill Sans that was similar to a geometric sans, but with gentler, more natural curves. And this is called a humanist sans. The next major step in the world of sans serifs happened in Switzerland in 1957 with the introduction of Helvetica. It has simple curves and is available in many different weights, and some would call it the world's favorite typeface. The world of typography changed forever with the introduction of the computer. There were a few difficult years of crude pixel type due to the primitive screen technology. But then technology evolved and computers began to allow for the creation of thousands of beautiful typefaces. And the odd dud. But now anyone has the freedom to create their own unique typeface. And that is the history of typography.
All right, so we'll end there, but I just wanted to thank you guys for coming to class. Thank you for participating, whether you're at home watching or you came into the meeting. But if you have any questions, we'll meet tomorrow during the multi-session. And so I just want to invite you guys to come, ask questions, whatever you need to know. I would love to come meet you guys virtually, and just know it's at the same time, 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for coming.